Gospel Reflections for the 19th Sunday of Ordinary Time, Year A, 13th of August, 2023. The Gospel text is from Matthew, chapter 14, verses 22 to 33. The main focus of this Gospel reading is this: we need to make a progress from our little faith to a deeper faith in order to get sufficient spiritual energy to battle against the storms of life, such as trials, fears, doubts, and the onslaught of evil forces. In brief, the main theme is to fight against the storms of life. We have to move from a little faith to a deeper faith, from a little faith to a deeper faith. Today's gospel that narrates the miracle of Jesus walking on water and stilling the storm in the sea is meant to teach the disciples a lesson about the necessity of moving from a little or shallow faith to a deeper faith in Jesus. Our faith is not a ready-made thing to be treasured safely. It has its own ups and downs. It grows and wanes. It is constantly threatened by storms or trials of life. Based on today's gospel, we can point out 4 types of storms that batter against our faith in God or Christ, namely trials of faith, fears, doubts, and the influence of satanic or evil forces. These are the tempests that threaten to sink our boat of life in our faith journey. First type of storms, namely trials of faith, come to us in many ways when sudden calamities and misfortunes fall on us, when God seems to be simply absent and not caring for us, when we face failures and disappointments one after another, when our suffering is not taken away, when God seems to be not listening to our prayers, especially for the deliverance, for our deliverance from misfortunes. Second type of storms, namely our fears, increase day by day as the world advances in science and technology. Fear of being attacked by an enemy, of accidents and deadly diseases like heart attacks and cancer, of remaining unemployed, of losing a job, fear of being killed in a bomb blast, or the fear of untimely or unprepared death. These fears, whether imaginary, unrealistic, or realistic, seem to become our masters, controlling and driving us to wrong directions. Third type of storms is about the doubts of faith. Sometimes we doubt whether all our efforts will be fruitful, whether our plans will succeed, whether there is a God who allows the just to suffer or allows pestilences and horrible natural calamities. We also doubt, why does God permit suffering and evil to persist? Why can't He control it with His almighty powers? The fourth type of storms is the evil influence of satanic forces operative in our world, such as serious sins, corruption, religious intolerance, ethnic cleansing, unjust structures of society, crimes against humanity, terrorism, wars, riots, substance abuses, and various forms of addictions, and ruthless exploitation of natural resources leading to ecological injustice. They are like a roaring lion trying to devour or swallow our faith, our shallow faith. They are like a roaring lion trying to devour our shallow faith, as we read in 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 8. According to the common worldview of the Jews at the time of Jesus, the roaring of the sea with mighty waves, storms or cyclones was the work of Satan or devil. Though we do not hold this Jewish worldview in this scientific age, still it is a fact that our faith commitment to Christ's values is constantly threatened by sin and evil or satanic forces. Our faith is severely tested by attractions and allurements of the world. In today's gospel, we see how Jesus struggled against these satanic forces operative in the seas and won a victory over them by stilling the storm. According to chapter 14, verse 32, like Jesus, we too are called to constantly struggle against evil and corrupt ways of the world and win a victory over them with the power of Jesus. Today's gospel text depicts the disciples as men who were caught up in a mighty storm while crossing the sea by boat. They were terrified at the sight of Jesus walking on water whom they thought to be a ghost. According to verse 26, Peter seemed to have some faith in Jesus when he requested him to permit him to walk on water. But it was mixed with the equal doubt. If it is you, Lord, command me to come. If it is you, in verse 28. When Jesus granted his request, he began to walk on water. But when he saw the power of the mighty wind, he failed to see Jesus and trust in his superior power. Our faith remains strong as long as we fix our eyes firmly on Jesus. We need to admit that we are people of little faith like Peter, as Jesus said in verse 31, because when we see the strength of the storm, we forget the power of the Lord over them. Thus we sink to the bottom of our trust. We have to believe in the Lord's power to calm the tempests of our life and cry to him, Lord, save me, as verse 30 says. An experience of calmness after going through tempests leads us to confession and adoration of the Lord as we acclaim, truly, you are the Son of God. Verse 33. Many of us think that our faith is very deep if we regularly attend church on Sundays and go through all the religious practices and rituals or answer all questions about our faith in catechism or from the Bible. But in fact, if we do not allow our faith to influence our life, our attitudes, our behavior and action, it is fruitless. A faith which is limited only to ritual practices or to head level with a lot of information and knowledge about religious matters may not save us when it is severely tested due to 4 types of storms of life mentioned above. Through the given gospel text, Jesus invites us to grow from our little and doubtful state of faith to one of confession and surrender. We lose trust in the power and goodness of the Lord when we face the darkness. We need deep faith to recognize the voice of the Lord who invites us to come to him with his outstretched arms. He invites us to abandon ourselves into his arms just like a child. When we doubt about the Lord's trustworthiness, we may stumble like Peter. We have to move from mere religious practices and knowledge of faith, which are also necessary, to a deeper level of faith or faith of self-surrender, where we offer our entire lives to God, put him in charge of our lives and permit him to do what he wants with us. Then only we get the power to bear unbearable situations, to do what humanly speaking seems to be impossible, and to accept persons and situations as they are. Therefore, let us place all our present trials of faith, fears and anxieties, doubts of faith, and the evil influence of satanic forces into the hands of God, trusting that He will accompany us through these storms of life. A prayer. Take me, Lord, where you want to take. Give me what you want to give. Do what you want with me. Lead me in your paths. Here am I, O Lord, to do your will. Assure me, Lord, that I am in your loving care. Amen.